Lately, I've been feeling very uninspired. I haven't had much motivation to create new art, and honestly, that happens to every artist at some point. It's not even that I don't have sources of inspiration. In fact, the opposite. Recently, I saw so many beautiful places that I wanted to paint. At the time, I felt so inspired, but I couldn't paint them in that moment. And now that some time has passed, I don't really feel like painting them anymore. That spark is gone. So basically, I have been uninspired, and whenever this happens, I have realized that the best thing I can do is to focus on movement. Starting small, creating momentum, and letting the act of making art carry me forward. That's what today's video is about. What I actually do when I feel uninspired and how I slowly find my way back to creativity. The very first step I take is to reach for my favorite medium, watercolors, and my favorite color, which is a kind of reddish pink with a warm yellow undertone, but basically red only. It's not always the exact shade I imagine, but it's a color that makes me happy. And along with that, I pick up my favorite sketchbook size. It's small enough that I don't get overwhelmed by a huge empty page, but still big enough to give me room to create something real. It feels safe, approachable, but with enough space to make something that matters to me. Once I have set that up, I begin with Zentangles. Zentangle is a simple art form where you repeat patterns, lines, and shapes in a meditative way. It's like meditating, but with your creation. Today I started with simple blob-like shapes, then drew straight lines across the page from left to right, curving around those shapes, and then filling the blob shapes with other parallel lines. It's low pressure, very relaxing, and it gets my hand moving. That's the point. This exercise isn't about making a finished piece. It's about warming up, getting into the rhythm of drawing or painting, and easing myself back into the flow of art making. The second thing I do is go online and follow a tutorial. YouTube is full of wonderful tutorials, and I usually look for something simple, quick, and doable in 10 or 15 minutes. The key here is that it's low pressure. I don't have to come up with a composition or a color palette myself. I just follow along and let someone else guide the process. I don't copy it stroke for stroke, but I watch the tutorial first, see the process, and then paint it following the similar process but at my own pace, in my own way. And when I finish, I have a small, complete painting which feels so satisfying when you've been feeling stuck that you want to just continue even more. Zentangles are fun, but this gives me a finished little piece that makes me feel like I actually created something. For the third step, I go back to my comfort subject, something I've painted many times before and that I never get tired of. For me, that's flowers, more like sunflowers. I love their warm yellow violets and I've painted them in so many variations, in vases, in barrels with different petal shapes, different leaves. Every time I paint them, they come out slightly different, but the composition feels safe and familiar. This step is about boosting my imagination without overwhelming myself. Since I know the subject well, I feel free to make choices about composition, placement of things in my composition, colors, and each time it's a little different. It's like returning to an old friend who always inspires me. By this point, I have already warmed up with Zentangles, painted a tutorial piece, and created something from my own go-to subject. That's usually when I start asking myself the bigger question: why am I feeling uninspired in the first place? And that's the fourth step, introspection. Sometimes I feel uninspired because I am overwhelmed. Other times it's because I had too many ideas at once and I didn't have time to paint them all. For example, after my recent trip, I came home full of inspiration, but because I didn't paint those places right away, the ideas faded and then I felt stuck again. It's easy to think, I need the perfect inspiration to strike me again before I can paint. But honestly, waiting for inspiration like that is dangerous because it puts the control outside of you. What I've learned is that inspiration is not something you wait for. It's something you create yourself through practice, patience, and little steps. So I take a moment to reflect, but I don't let it stop me. By this stage, because I've already gone through the first 3 steps, I usually feel ready to start something new. The 5th step is to switch to my second favorite medium. For me, that's colored pencils. They're nostalgic. They remind me of school when colored pencils were my first love before I found watercolors. But they are also low pressure because they are not my main medium. When I use them, I don't expect perfection. I just play around. Recently, I saw some beautiful photo references of ladybugs on forget-me-not flowers. I didn't copy a single photo directly. Instead, I combined elements of different pictures into my own composition. Because I was using my second favorite medium, it felt like change of pace, fresh, relaxing, and fun. There was no pressure to make it perfect. And sometimes, that's exactly what you need to get inspired again. A little switch up, without the weight of expectation. By the end of this process, Zentangles, tutorials, favorite subjects, reflection, and switching mediums, I almost always feel my inspiration coming back. Sometimes it's slow, sometimes it clicks right away. But these steps remind me that creativity isn't about waiting for the perfect spark. It's about starting, keeping your hands moving, and letting inspiration catch up to you along the way. So, if you've been feeling uninspired, maybe try some of these steps yourself. Start with a warm up that feels easy, follow a tutorial without pressure, return to a subject you love, take time to reflect, and then switch it up with a different medium just for fun. That's how I find my way back to painting. And honestly, just making this video already makes me feel more inspired to create new art. I hope it helps you too. Thank you for spending this time with me, and if you give these steps a try, let me know in the comments what worked for you. Until next time, happy painting. Also, do subscribe.